Oh, now you sit here as a free man,
Yes.
if I may say. How is to be free? How is your life doing?
I've loved it. I mean, thankfully, the people I worked with on my show were also fired with me. I don't know, they were quite
Congratulations to them as well.
My executive producer, Justin Wells, we've been together for many years and we're very close, and he got fired 2 minutes after I got fired, and I called him and I just said, I'm so glad you were fired. So my world hasn't changed that much, actually, and I've been married, I've been with the same woman for 39 years, and I have a very large and very close family, and the people I work with haven't changed, and my dogs are, we have a lot of dogs, and they're still there, so my life hasn't changed that much. And by the way, I should say, for whatever it's worth, no one really cares, but Fox was really nice to me for the 14 years I worked there. They never said, you can't say this, you can't say that. They let me say whatever I wanted, and I knew on some level, probably someday I'll go too far and have like a Hungarian on, and they'll fire me, and they did, but they were always nice to me. I can't kind of complain about Fox, I'm just being honest.
And what are your plans for the future? I think that this is what, in this uncertain situation, gives you a purpose of life, right?
I would say two things. One, this is the third time I've been fired as an adult, and I would really recommend it to anybody. I think it's...
what was the first two?
I worked at other cable news networks and was also unceremoniously fired, and always on the front page of the New York Times with cackling glee. But it's great to get fired because it keeps you from being a truly horrible person. I mean, we're all sort of horrible people because we're people. But getting fired, the problem with men when they're successful is they start to think they're Jesus. It just happens, and you get this hubris, like I can do anything, I'm so important. And getting fired reminds you that, no, you're just like everybody else. You're kind of a ridiculous person, and in the end, you'll die alone and terrified like every other human being from the beginning of time. And like, you're just like everybody else, and stop that. And that's a really good thing to learn about yourself. Being humiliated is the greatest learning. In fact, I will say it's not the greatest learning experience. It's the only learning experience, at least for men. Now, I can just speak because I'm a man. And men need to be humiliated fairly regularly to keep their souls pure. Otherwise, they become absolutely unbearable. And anyone who's married to one can tell you that that's true. So I'm really glad that and I think my wife was really grateful that I got fired also. But I would say the second thing I learned, and that's why I'm here today, is that the United States is very geographically isolated, as I noted a minute ago. One of the most isolated countries in the world, and that's been the secret to our success, I would say. We're not getting invaded by Canada, and we would win, for the record, if we were. But American news consumers are not interested in the rest of the world, or that was the idea in all the years I've been in the news business. I'm very interested in the rest of the world because it's interesting, and because I grew up in a family that was interested in the rest because of my dad's job. So we did a bunch of stories on places like Hungary and El Salvador and Finland and Brazil, and we went around the world and did these stories, and people turned out to be interested in them. It was a little bit surprising. It would not be surprising here because you're in the middle of Central Europe with 7 neighbors, so everybody in Hungary is thinking about other countries all the time. But in the US, that was a big thing. Like, really? They're interested in Hungary? Very interested in Hungary. So that was such a happy surprise to me, and I plan to there's so much I want to see in the world because the world is resetting completely. The post-war order is collapsing. NATO is going to collapse, obviously. You can't have the driver of NATO, which is the United States, sabotage Germany's main source of cheap energy in Nord Stream. The Biden administration blew up Nord Stream. And the Germans are so self-hating, they won't say anything about it. They sort of put their head down like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Okay. But I do want to talk about it because it's important. First of all, it was the biggest act of industrial sabotage in history. Second, it was the largest man-made CO2 emission in history, which if you're a global warming cultist is like the devil himself come to earth, and the Biden administration did that. But third and most important, it was an attack on Germany, which is the most powerful country in Europe. Western Europe is America's last main ally, and we just attacked our most important ally. NATO cannot stand long term. At some point, the Germans are going to wake up and be like, wait a second, we had chemical plants 2 years ago, now we don't. You just wrecked our economy. I don't think it can continue after that. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see how it does.